If you're just joining us, if you're just sitting down in your car, it's 2 o'clock on the West Coast, 5 o'clock on the East Coast. You're like, what I miss? I've been locked in a meeting. I've been worried about the stock market, which shut down for a couple hours earlier today after another massive sell-off. Here's what you need to know. You will not lose your bracket pool this year. You will not win your bracket pool this year. There will be no bracket this year. There is going to be no NCAA tournament. Not postponed, canceled. Not postponed, canceled. The NCAA waited and I guess backed itself into a corner with every major conference tournament being canceled. Even at halftime of the first Big East game, the Big East tournament decided to cancel the rest of their games. The National Collegiate Athletic Association announced about 45 minutes ago that there would not only be no NCAA tournament, be no spring sports, including the College World Series in Omaha, Nebraska. There are wide-reaching financial ramifications from this, not just declaring champions, but there'll be an economic shortfall of epic proportions for the NCAA, which will affect not just their member schools, but so many other sports. But there's not going to be any basketball played for the next couple weeks, and what feels like a month for the NBA. A month. And so any of us who woke up like me thinking, man, I feel like we might be overreacting. I guess the answer is maybe we're underreacting. Maybe the information that other people have is so much greater than the information we have. It's going to get way, way, way worse. And at the end of the day, we'll nod and go, oh, well, that's why. But considering the number of cases, which should continue to grow, and while that seems like a bad thing, it's not a good thing, but while it seems like a bad thing, the one part to it is the more cases that are discovered, the more patients will have been cleared and been okay. The mortality rate from it will shrink as well. Right? The number of deaths, even if it increases, obviously, because more people have it, when tenfold the number of people have it, now all of a sudden the percentage of deaths from the coronavirus will be much lower, and hopefully we'll have a breath. Like, look, this is all super, super preventative, and it's all reacting to scientists and doctors who are advising the people in charge. Some of it is a cancel culture. Some of it is the lemming mentality and the lynch mob mentality of social media. I would guess some of it is also pushback against the current administration, who massively downplayed, underplayed it, and some kind of allowed out there the idea they thought this was a bit of a hoax, or this was something that was generated by the other side in an attempt to change what the election was about. Our economy is a mess. Other economies, especially tourist economies, will be a mess. Some of this is to prevent our healthcare system from being overrun with patients that it cannot properly serve. And so in an attempt to stabilize collegiate and professional sports, everybody has just said, hey, let's take a breath and let's shut it down. But the NCAA is not going to start it back up this season. Wow, what a day. I mean, we're talking 50, was it Tuesday? So Tuesday I was getting ready to host The Herd. And I was literally walking out. Colin has a dressing room, which is, I don't know, it's a bit of a hallway. You walk down, that's probably 25 yards. Another one's 25 yards. Another one's 20. It's probably 100 yards from, with a winding little hallway, from his dressing room to the set where he broadcasts The Herd from. It's on a sound stage in the heart of Culver City on the old Fox lot. And I was literally about to walk into the soundstage, and one of the advisors to that show said, hey, what do you plan on doing on the coronavirus? And I was like, I'd like to do a little of it. I think it's going to have a major effect on the NCAA tournament if they play it or whatever. It's like, yeah, we're not really there yet. It's a little bit of bad news, and sports is, even when you deliver bad news in sports, it's not about infectious diseases and viruses. Unless he said it was a smart point. Like, if the story mandates it, well, then you can, then you can talk coronavirus. But to just volunteer, offer up an opinion, because one of the things I wanted to get into at the time was it was the first time in which reporters' access to locker rooms was limited. And I was thinking there are going to be some, I don't know if it's positive takeaways, but things that we will always do that we only have started doing right now. I'll give you an example. Everybody, with the exception of people who've gone through clear or have TSA pre, or if you're an old person, you have to take off your shoes, right? Why do you have to take off your shoes? Because one idiot tried to smuggle in a bomb through his shoes. Remember that? Shoe bomber guy? I use that as the what of the coronavirus. It's panic. Will we take away and end up liking and keep? Like, are we going to have our public schools be offered virtually? Like, I know there's a lot of these schools are shutting down in-person classes, and you can take all your classes online. Little known fact, a lot of college students don't set foot on college campuses anymore. And I'm not talking about just your online schools. I'm talking about your traditional universities. Many of them offer at least half of the courses online. Now, it can change even more if you're able to do things. I have a friend who played Major League Baseball, who his way of, they lived in Florida in the off season, and in the season, his kids could travel with them, or wherever their hometown was. They were in the same classes, only where they were there virtually. The school offered that. I wouldn't be surprised if we take this away from it, is the ability to take classes virtually, especially when your kid is homesick. Like, you're homesick, that's fine. Dial it up. You're online. You can watch the class. You can follow along with the coursework. It makes it a lot easier in terms of absences, and kids don't fall behind. There's no excuses. I want to talk about this, and I was like, nah, I don't know. That was 50 hours ago. Now the NCAA tournament's canceled. NBA season is postponed at least for a couple weeks, maybe for a month. NHL, same thing. Major League Baseball is pushing back the start of their season by 2 weeks. That's all happened in the last 48 hours. It's not what has happened. It's the pace by which it's all happened. And it doesn't feel like there has been a report that would cause the type of alarm or maybe even panic that we've seen. So I guess, do we have to see that sort of panic? I understand what the NCAA did. I know they took their time because they probably, truth be told, wanted to postpone it, but they just couldn't get clear enough answers. And part of the problem with the tournament that big is you need exact days, exact times. You can't just go, hey, we're going to have a tournament next weekend at the JCC. Bring your team, bring $200, and we'll find some officials and we'll find some game times we'll send you the game times Wednesday night. That's not the way it works. This is a massive event. And as hard as it was to turn around the ship to postponing it or canceling it, it's equally hard to postpone it and then get the thing back started up at all new dates, at all new sites, with all new ramifications of it. Just too much. The good news is I think very few coaches will be fired because the buyouts are not only substantial, but there's been such a hit in the stock market. You going to go to a booster and ask them for a couple $1,000,000 to pay a coach not to coach anymore? Probably not. The bad news is, I've told you before, people build their lives, their careers on their success in the NCAA tournament. That's all anybody remembers you for. And those memories won't occur this year. Through no fault of the players, through no fault of the NCAA, or through just circumstances have done that. But it is a reality. There's no one shining moment. There's no, pick a Virginia player or Tony Bennett, like all of these guys that you remember from tourneys in the past, that one NCAA tournament moment you won't remember this year. And sadly, it was kind of a wide open year, and Kansas, who's under an NCAA investigation and wanted to stick it to the man, won't get a chance to. Jamie in Indiana, you're on the Doug Gottlieb Show. Jamie, what are your thoughts?
First 20-year listener, first-time caller. My concern is what happens to all the eligibility for these kids. I mean, half of them just got yanked out in the middle of their senior seasons. Do they all get they get a redo next year? Do they give the teams an extra scholarship to accommodate all these kids that might have to come back if they do let that happen? I just think I understand why they did it, but man, those kids just got screwed.
Well, I think the kids that really got screwed are the spring sport kids, right, who didn't even get the chance to play their season, like baseball season just getting underway, tennis just getting underway. I think gymnastics is spring as well, softball. Look, here's my very simple take on seniors. I do not mind at all, even if the basketball playing seniors get offered an extra year of eligibility. I am not, nor will I ever be in this, or I try to be in any discussion, a hypocrite. I actually believe in the system being used properly to help kids get an education. And in this case, they can get a master's degree. I don't care if they can stay there and be doctors. But you have a golden opportunity to tell these kids, hey, we know that normally your eligibility, but we didn't like the way it ended. So you're allowed to come back and we'll expand the scholarship limits and you can play another year. And if you already graduated, go work towards your master's. Truth be told, that scholarship athletes are allowed to stay on scholarship and work towards their master's anyway, or come back for it on scholarship anyway, even if they're not playing sports. The only thing you're opening up is an extra year eligibility. I'm all for that. Why not?